Hey everyone, today I've got The Greatest Showman movie review. From the visionary mind of P.T. Barnum, creates the greatest show on earth. But must the show go on? So as far as the story goes, this musical movie tells of a man who started from the bottom. Now he's here to entice ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages to see a show where there are these so-called freaks in town who are welcomed as equals while showing off their uniqueness that comes to life on screen. While I haven't been to too many circuses, I actually was at one last year, and I was really impressed with all of that. And of course, when you're first seeing this stuff and nobody has ever seen something like this before, you really get to see how this act of show business begins and what it really means to be the ringmaster. Even though it looks like it's very eye-opening to see how this all began, the story falls flat at times, and you almost hope that they do a curtain call and just end it already. While I was impressed with, getting to know who this guy was, because you recognize the name surely from the Barnum Bailey Circus, and now this one guy had this vision to create all of this, and I feel like a lot of it was mostly in the form of just singing, and they had a lot of singing involved with pretty much every single scene that involved them being at the circus and people flying on the trapeze and animals, which were basically CGI in the movie, but it really wasn't as impressive as it was making itself out to be, which, can be very disappointing to some people who would see this movie. Now, as far as the casting goes, you've got Hugh Jackman, who plays P.T. Barnum, and yeah, I liked him and his performance in this movie because I know he has a history with being a part of the theater, and, he does have a good singing voice. He has been in musical movies before, such as Les Mis, and so I thought, hey, this wouldn't be a huge problem for him here. And although he does shine in this movie, I really feel like a lot of the flaws that I noticed in this movie really overshadowed the performances by the actors. Zac Efron, who I was also happy to see here, even though it was surprising, even though I've seen him in taking on different roles as of late, but knowing that he's coming back to a movie where he's singing since High School Musical, I thought it was really cool to see how much his voice has matured, and so I really enjoyed hearing him sing in this movie as well. Michelle Williams, who plays Hugh Jackman's wife, she didn't do a more memorable performance here, as well as Zendaya, who I feel like at times I could tell wasn't exactly singing to the best of her ability, especially if you needed help singing, like Rebecca Ferguson, who definitely at times sounded like she was coming off of Phantom of the Opera, but it was more like Phantom of the Auto-Tune. So the things that I liked about this movie was that the soundtrack was, at least a decent one, even though there were at least one or two songs that I picked out that were definitely my favorites, like This Is Me. That's definitely a catchy tune that I can't stop listening to, and I loved the cinematography. It really made you feel like you were actually under the big top, and going along with that, you've got the art direction and the costume design, the production design just really set the scene and set the whole tone of the film. But unfortunately, the things that I didn't really like about this movie was that I found it a tad boring, and while I was really trying to get interested and sucked into this story that I had no idea what it was all going to be about, except the start of the circus, and it just, a lot of it wasn't as impressive as maybe some of those visual effects were making it out to be, and there weren't that many memorable songs that I was really listening to. Unlike other musical movies out there like Moulin Rouge, I could listen to that whole soundtrack and I would love every minute of it. Same with the movie, but this one I feel like it really just falls on deaf ears. And kind of like how I felt watching La La Land 2, where there were only a couple songs from that soundtrack that I actually will listen to over and over again, but everything else is forgettable. And I feel like this movie tries too hard to be something that it's not, and I feel like it ends up looking like just your average musical, but with forced flair. So overall, I would say that The Greatest Showman really was a disappointment, but it was still an impressive movie as far as what they were trying to achieve, but I feel like, with a little bit more work, they could have achieved a lot more. So I'm kind of on the fence about recommending it to you guys, because I feel like not everybody is a huge fan of musicals, so they might skip this one altogether. I think that I had a lot of expectations to see this movie, and then when I did, I really felt disappointed there. So I would give this 3.5 hearts on the heart rate scale. So let me know in the comments what you guys thought of The Greatest Showman. And as always, you guys can subscribe to my channel. I've got more movie reviews, movie updates coming every week for a Child Thursday video. You guys can also like me on Facebook and follow me on Twitter. And I will see you guys later.